Am I the antagonist for abandoning my mother-in-law to deal with an angry flower owner and not warning her? Obligatory on mobile. BG, my mother-in-law enjoys cultivating plants and has a tendency to steal cuttings from other people's gardens. She often talks about this jokingly, giggling over her little thievery and claiming no harm, no foul. I am quite a rule-abiding person who hates to put other people out. I find it rude to cut other people's flowers which they have grown and try to look nice. So usually I just don't laugh and try to change the subject. I have never called her out over it, and she has never done it in front of me. Yesterday I was out walking with my partner, FIL, and mother-in-law. Mother-in-law and I were trailing behind as she is a bit slower. The houses on the street were close to the road, and we were admiring their flower boxes. At one house, mother-in-law exclaimed that a certain flower was very rare and she had been looking for it. She pulled a small knife from her pocket and took a cutting. I only realized what she was doing when she had the cutting in her hand. I also realized that mother-in-law hadn't noticed the person sitting right inside the window as she was doing it. She smiled at me triumphantly and giggled until the person opened the window and started yelling at her. I didn't feel like getting yelled at and pulled away towards the end of the street, approximate 10 m away. Figuring not my problem. After a few minutes, mother-in-law joined me, red-faced and annoyed that I abandoned her. It has caused some tension with my in-laws, but I don't feel like I was in the wrong. I didn't cut anything, and I kind of feel she had it coming. Am I the antagonist? Edit, wow, this blew up. Thank you for all the replies. I have learned so much about gardening that I never knew. Maybe my black thumbs should try again. I appreciate the fact that I should have brought it up with her sooner. But I was caught off guard in the moment. My partner and FIL were a few blocks away when it happened, so they were not involved. She has calmed down now and is her usually smiling self. For the sake of the relationship, I think I will just let this one go. I doubt she will do it again in my presence at least. And I don't feel like telling her off. Maybe I can accidentally watch YouTube clips about the damages of willy-nilly cutting taking in her presence. NTA. She was well overdue for a scolding, and there was no reason for you to hang about and appear to support her. You probably should have made your disapproval explicit before this, but meh, she's a grown-ass woman who should have known better. NTA. She's a coward who likes to get away with petty crime. If you want a cutting, you knock and compliment their plants and ask. Most folks say yes, and then you have a new friend to talk to about plants. Thieves never make friends. I loathe the tee-hee-hee, I'm a proplifter. Thing that's so common right now. You want to pick up a fallen cutting off the floor of some big box home improvement store where it's just going to be swept up and thrown out otherwise. Go for it. You want to cut a piece off a living plant? Unacceptable. Using the same knife to cut pieces from multiple plants spreads disease. Opening a hole on a plant attracts pests and can also cause disease pressure, not to mention dehydration, sunburn, and wound shock. It's awful to look at your prized plant and see that it's been maimed. To see that a plant is very rare and decide that's why you'll steal a cutting from it is even worse. Plants tend toward rarity for multiple reasons, but one of the more common ones is an advanced difficulty to grow them. Damaging the plant is likely to make them rarer. NTA. Maybe your mother-in-law will learn a lesson this time. In your shoes, I'd bring this up every single time she so much as looked at a plant from now until doomsday. She knew what she was doing was wrong, and it was only a matter of time before she got caught. There was no reason for you to stay and get yelled at, especially since your mother-in-law could have just as easily walked away also as soon as the person opened the window. Am I the antagonist for embarrassing my wife by taking our son from her in front of her family? So the title sounds a little weird. So I, 30 male, have a 5-year-old with my wife of 6 years, Chloe, 28 female. Never had a big issue between us. Truly is my best friend and someone until recently I trusted fully. So I do not have a relationship with my mom. And I haven't since I was 15. Without going into all the details, my mom broke up the family to marry some dude. I told her when I was 15 that if she chose this road, then there wouldn't be coming back. She was making a selfish decision and needed to think about it. She chose to stay with the dude and move in with him. I haven't seen her since. I told her the last time we spoke, my 18th birthday, that my kid will never know her, and that is my wish. She broke up with this dude a few years ago and tried getting in contact with me. When I blocked her, she tried my wife, who I informed of the situation, and she agreed that she would never contact my mom, which was hard for my wife to accept because she doesn't have her mom anymore. My wife was pushy at first about me opening up to reconciling, but when she learned I wasn't budging, she learned to accept it. So this weekend I'm fixing the Ring doorbell we have, and finally learned how to see the old footage. That is when I see my mom on the camera. I go back months and see her more and more. During work she was stopping by for hours at a time. My wife on camera letting her in. I texted my wife asking why she let my mom see our son. No response. Hours go by. Nothing back. I knew they were at a family day thing. So I printed pics of the videos, wrote a letter that stated how upset I was, and laid out my plans to go stay at my dad's with our son, till I knew I could trust her again. Then I drove to the party, walked into the backyard, said hello to everyone. I made sure nobody could tell I was mad. But I grabbed my son, walked up to my wife, handed her the letter, told her to check her phone and read the letter privately. I told my son we had to leave, quietly packed up his stuff and headed to the car. My wife read the letter in this time and ran over to me, asking if we could talk. I said it wasn't the time or place, that she could call once I got to my dad's. She then caused a scene, crying and begging to talk. I didn't want a scene, so I left. I got to my dad's and then we talked. She is saying I'm an AH for where I did this. I said she is the one who broke down in front of everyone. I didn't cause a scene. She did. I tried making it as low-key as possible. She chose to not answer her phone. She chose to read the letter in front of everyone when I said not to. And she is the one who cried and begged for a ride home. So she embarrassed herself with her actions. I've been staying at my dad's since Saturday and we plan on coming home sometime this weekend. But I don't think I need to apologize. But I'm still being called AH. Am I the antagonist? NTA, that is a very deep betrayal. As someone who was estranged from my father for some time, this would be utterly devastating, and I am so sorry. I hope she thinks very deeply about what she's done and does everything in her power to regain your trust. Aita, you told her you didn't want your mom in your son's life and she went behind your back. As the old saying goes, you made your bed, now you have to lie in it. NTA, she broke your trust repeatedly behind your back. That's not okay. Whether she agrees or not, it's your decision to make. Wow. A lot to unpack here. Not going to touch your feelings for your mother and if that's justified or not, but that doesn't matter. What matters here is she definitely didn't respect your boundaries and quite literally went behind your back. This just seems a petty effort to attack you and put herself in the moral right to others because she knows she had no ground to stand on otherwise. I'm sorry, that sucks and is a hard thing to come back from. You weren't wrong for taking your son and completely right in the fact that she chose to make a scene. How dreadful for her that you being upset over this betrayal made her look bad. Am I the antagonist for firing an employee for driving his personal vehicle to job sites? I own and operate my own contracting company. I've been in business for almost a decade now and have almost 50 people working for me. I usually ask that my workers drive to the office in the morning and take company vans or trucks to job sites, but I understand that isn't always the easiest option for people, so I do allow them to drive personal vehicles to job sites if they need to. However, there has been one guy, Steve, who I have gotten a few complaints about from customers. Steve drives a big, lifted, customized truck. It's a nice truck and I know he takes a lot of pride in it. But the thing is covered in political stickers. Now, if you work for me, I don't care what your political views are as long as you're good at your job. And Steve has been with me for about 5 years now and he's good at what he does. He's knowledgeable and efficient and overall has been a quality employee. But Steve has been driving his truck to job sites pretty regularly because his kids are in daycare and it's easier for him to drop them off in the morning and then go directly to a job rather than to the office. We've talked about this and I approved it to make it easier for him. Normally this wouldn't be an issue for me. But the last 3 customers that Steve was working with complained to me that he was parking his truck in front of their houses and they weren't comfortable with the political messaging on his truck. The last one even took pictures of his truck and posted it to social media and tagged my company on it. I had a talk with Steve about driving his truck to jobs and told him that he's going to need to come to the office in the morning and take a company vehicle. He complained about the hassle of dropping off his kids and I told him he's going to need to figure that out, but for now I want him to leave his truck at the office as it is causing me and the company headaches. He complied for the rest of that last job, but when we started a new one last week, he started driving his own truck again. Sure enough, 3 days into the job and I got complaints from the customer about Steve's truck. I had another talk with Steve and told him that this was no longer negotiable and that I am requiring him to take a company vehicle. He accused me of discriminating against him and it turned into a heated argument. We both said some harsh things and I eventually told him he was fired. He has since posted a lot of negative stuff on social media about me and my company. He has also talked to a lot of my employees and some of them have taken his side and think I was in the wrong to fire him. I've had to hold a company-wide meeting about this and I have revoked the option to drive personal vehicles to jobs and now require everyone to take company vehicles, no exceptions. Now I have people pissed off at me for taking away that option when they never got complaints, so maybe I'll have to revisit that idea, but I don't think I was an asshole for firing Steve. NTAs, the amount people saying otherwise is astonishing to me. You didn't say, hey Steve, your politics are shit so fuck you, drive out of your way to work as punishment or else you're fired. In fact, you let him drive his truck to job sites until it became a consistent problem. Then you addressed it. Then he did it again, and it was yet again a problem. So you attempted to explain it and retain him, but he started crying about it and essentially forced the issue. It's your company. Your name. And the money/PR involved affects everyone, not just you. It was a business decision, pure and simple. You can require people to drive company vehicles to job sites, just like you can require people to wear company shirts to job sites. Sure, one person might love an employee's Biden or Trump shirt, but another person most assuredly will not. If someone parked a giant political advertisement I disagreed with in front of my house, I'd direct them off my property. And that's the risk. NTA. He decided that he'd rather advertise his politics than keep his job. NTA, if he is bringing his personal politics to the job site and shoving it into your customers' faces, and they are complaining and posting online, I guarantee you that you're already losing customers. I know that my money will not go to companies that put up political signage that makes it clear that my money will support individuals and causes that I find offensive. Don't care if we disagree and it's not in my face, but if their business has active signage, they force me to respond. He was representing your company at those job sites, and politics and religion reflect very badly on your company. He knew that and he didn't care. As for everyone else being angry that you changed the policy, well, it only takes one bad apple to ruin it for everyone else. His political views are his own, and you should not fire him over that, but whatever political views you have no place in business, and it is making people uncomfortable and therefore damaging your business. Am I the antagonist for going to a family wedding my brother wasn't invited? I am 4 years older than my brother Mark. I never got myself into trouble and was always a great student. I graduated and found myself a great job, a loving wife, and all I've dreamed of. Mark is doing good, all things considered, but he sure went the long way. When he got to high school, he would constantly hang with the wrong crowds and got himself in trouble very often. He barely graduated, and after that his life went off the deep end. He flunked college, only got himself dead-end jobs, and only got by with mine and my mother's help. He also got himself into drugs, though I don't know how bad. Still, all things considered, he was always a very good person. Honest, and he never made excuses for himself. He was just lazy and had no direction in life. During this time he was our extended family's black sheep, especially from our mother's side. Our Aunt Mary, especially. Mary is very cool but does act a bit pretentious. Her kids worshipped Mark, and when the stories about his life started going around, half of them were lies. She started putting some distance, but would talk to Mark the same as me when we did met. Eventually, Mark turned his life around. I don't know what happened, but I know it was really bad. Long story short, he got himself clean. 1 year after that he was unrecognizable. He was happy, extroverted, and pretty much left his old life behind. After 8 years, he was engaged, with a job and a future. Our family knows of this, and they're happy for him. Unfortunately, Mary never abandoned her old views. She occasionally puts him down because he never went to college and doesn't respect his job. Every time I visit, she likes to show me off as her lawyer nephew, but she never invites him or even mentions him. As far as her friends know, my mother only has one son. Mark knows this, and it hurts him. 2 years ago, Mary's daughter got married and they planned this huge wedding. Both me, my wife, and my mother got invited, but not Mark. We didn't know how to handle this. We asked Mary's daughter why was Mark left out, and she admitted her mother didn't want him there because it would make them look bad. We decided to go without telling him, so he wouldn't get hurt. He was never even aware Mary's daughter was getting married. Of course, eventually he found out when he saw pictures in social media. He was absolutely crushed. He confronted us and said that if we were family we should have refused to go without him. I disagreed. We fought and he went NC. To this day my mother feels guilty about it. This was 2 years ago. A couple of weeks ago my mother found out that Mark just had a kid and had introduced it to our other uncles. She was very hurt since she never even knew his partner was pregnant. She asked him why he didn't tell us about his child. His answer: I love, son. I will always be there for him, no matter what. I will not expose him to a family that will feel ashamed of him and turn him into a pariah because of some stupid choices. Aitah. You and your mom both. As for your aunt and cousin, it goes without saying. I'm in recovery myself. What your brother has done, very few people have accomplished. I'm willing to bet that you have no idea that the relapse rate for recovering addicts is something like 98%, indicating that your brother is part of the 2% of people that successfully quit drugs. You and your mother have no right to question why he went NC with either of you. You two should be ashamed of yourselves. Your brother was hurt enough to go NC with you for 2 years after you showed him you didn't support him, and you're only now asking this? Aitah 7 Ways from Sunday. Aitah. It's long past the time where you or your mother stick up for Mark to the rest of her family. Sure, he took the long way around, but it sounds like he's a great guy who deserves far better than he got with his family. I hope he has a chosen family that loves and respects him, as his birth family obviously doesn't. Do you want a cookie for all the good choices you made and how great your life turned out? Literally didn't need any of that information, none was relevant to the story. You did just to gloat, which is a really bad look. I'm not surprised he went NC with you and your mom. She needs to get over herself and realize when you hurt someone and don't show support, they don't need you in their life. Am I the antagonist for not buying my daughter concert tickets? My 16-year-old daughter Riley really does not like one of her teachers, Ms. A. This was a bit surprising to me, as the teacher has a very good reputation and has helped out so many kids in bad situations and is just a generally nice person. But my daughter hates her. She'll rant about how annoying she is for ages, but she's never given an actual reason. I tell her that she's allowed to rant and all that, but don't say these things to her face and try not to go too far either. I hated some teachers during my childhood that I now respect/understand, so I really didn't think it was a major issue. Well, I got a call from Riley while she was at school and she was begging me to pick her up. I arrived immediately, but she refused to tell me what happened. She did crack eventually, though. She told me that Ms. A was having a conversation with another student and she mentioned one of her son's names, so Riley quickly looked him up on social media and went up to her teacher and asked if he was her son. Ms. A said yes, hesitantly apparently, and then Riley started laughing and said some really mean things about her son. To be specific, she called him anorexic and skeleton-like. Turns out, the boy did have anorexia. Ms. A got really upset and asked her to please work in the library for the remainder of the period. I was horrified, and it was clear that my daughter was feeling apologetic, but Jesus Christ? This was insanely disrespectful. I told Riley that she was grounded and that she needed to apologize to Ms. A immediately. I then told her that I wouldn't be buying her concert tickets. She got really upset and was all like, how was I supposed to know? But that just makes me more upset because it would still be wrong even if he wasn't anorexic. She cried and cried about the concert and called me really mean. My husband thinks the grounding is fine, but the concert tickets is overdoing it. He thinks that it probably isn't a huge deal because Ms. A just sent Riley to the library and didn't send her to the office or anything, and I'm doing too much. Ick, am I the antagonist? Ick if it matters, but I had anorexia when I was younger, so I might be reacting emotionally. Or at least my husband and daughter says so. NTA. She made the comments with the intent to be hurtful. The fact that one was close to the truth is moot. NTA, but you will be if you cave in and reward her shitty behavior. NTA, a 16-year-old should know better. She didn't have to know that he was anorexic, but she did have to know that bullying people is wrong. Edit a typo. Your daughter was bullying her teacher. She may not have meant to hurt her as badly as she did, but she did want to hurt her. And I think you need to explore why she would do something like that. While bullying among peers is in no way acceptable, it is somewhat within the norms of adolescent behavior. Bullying a teacher, even one that she doesn't like, is outside the norms of adolescent behavior. Am I the antagonist H for not forgiving my parents when they tried to force institutionalize me? I, 42, F, started having very severe panic attacks. I'm talking loud, long, messy panic attacks. My husband and I have been married for 19 and have 3 children, 18, 17, and 13 at the time. It obviously was extremely difficult for all of us. January 2021, I went on disability and entered into an intensive outpatient program, IOP, to help sort out why I was having these panic attacks and how to prevent them, and spent 12 weeks in the program. I was trying to do right by my family and do what was best for me. My IOP ended on Thursday, April 29th, and my husband and my dad asked me if I was better. I was caught off guard by this, as I was still processing what I went through in my program, and protectively replied, no, I wasn't ready to share how I felt. On Monday, May 3rd, my husband told me I needed to either go to our cabin for a week or be institutionalized, and that my father and mother would back him and they would kick me out of the house we rent from my parents if I didn't go. I was understandably confused AF, even more so when I called my father in tears to confirm this. Apparently, they thought I was bipolar, but that's no excuse, especially as I was being very closely monitored by medical professionals. After an hour of driving, I had to pull over as I was hysterical. It took my BFF, who was an MD, to convince my husband that not only was this not okay, but there wouldn't even be a program that would take me, as I certainly wasn't a threat to myself or others. This whole thing was driven by my mother. My husband really doesn't understand much about mental health or anything medical. I was mortified, but I went home. During this time, my hand had been going numb, on and off, but figured it was due to the stress of the situation. On Friday, May 7th, my whole arm went dead, due to stroke. It turns out I had a disease in my carotid arteries, but the stressful event pushed my brain over the edge, so to speak, causing the stroke. I told my extended family, brothers, and parents about the stroke over Zoom, as I was still emotionally gutted by their attempt to force institutionalize me. I told them that they were not welcome at my house, for the time being, as their presence was highly triggering after what they did. My husband feels horrible about what happened, entered therapy, and has made a lot of progress. My parents, on the other hand, refused to apologize, as they only had good intentions, which is very hurtful, and have repeatedly said they aren't sorry they did it. My brothers all think I'm the AH, as I won't forgive my parents and let it go, so the family can all hang out again. I don't feel safe when I'm with any of them anymore. I really can't see how I'm the AH. So please, I want honest opinions. Am I the AH? Should I just let this go? ETA, Holy Crow, everyone. Thank you so much for the perspective and support. I was in a really low place this morning, and TBH, I felt a little guilty posting this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Some added info. No, I did not have a history of panic attacks, PA. It was a very sudden onset. At the same time, I dropped 30 pounds without trying. It was very scary. All of my symptoms were from the disease that helped create the perfect storm for my stroke. No amount of meds or therapy could fix it, as it wasn't actually a mental health problem. It is now, though, after what my family put me through. Many people have expressed concern for my children, and I want you all to know that I appreciate that. I promise I tried to keep them as far away from my PAs as possible. I would isolate in the bathroom and scream into a pillow. It would often get to the point that I couldn't feel anything around me, and they were terrifying for me and the rest of my household. My mother called CPS, again because she thought I was manic, and CPS saw that we were literally doing everything we possibly could, given the situation. They were very kind and supportive. NTA. You can't forgive people who never ask forgiveness. I don't know that I could ever forgive my husband after that, never mind your parents who won't apologize. Some things you can't come back from, and in my mind, this is one of them. You're a braver and more kind soul than I am. I hope everything works out for the best for you. NTA woman has problem that isn't solved with a snap of a finger. Oh, she must be crazy because I've never had to go through this. Let's just get rid of the problem, so it isn't visible and impacting our life. Why should we have to know that it, is going through things? Let's just send it, to a cabin alone or throw it, in the nut house. You are being very gracious with your family. I have cut people out of my life for less. It sounds like your parents and brothers are entitled and don't actually care about you or love you. They are sentimental about you. They love you like they love fish, that they pull out of the water, cook, and eat. It's about what you can do for them, not about being family. This isn't even happening to me, and I am angry over it. This is all on your family. I'm sorry they're so self-absorbed they never bothered to learn anything about what anxiety disorders are, what it's like to live with one, and what the actual treatment plan is. Absolutely do not let these people back in your life. You are correct that you are not safe with them. If you have to meet them, do so in public, preferably with your MD friend. Do not let them in your house if they show up. And move as soon as possible. Renting from your parents just gives them more power over you.